welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. Our guest today is an expert when it comes to hiring, staffing companies, especially those blue-collar companies that really need that help. Dave Macdonald, thanks for joining us today, man. I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
Hey, Shaheen, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So for those out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about what your company does and your expertise.
Sure, we're the Better Together group. We help companies find employees that make them successful. We like to talk to companies about helping them create profitability and productivity through people.
I love that. I love that. So, hiring has been one of my strong suits. I don't know if it's because I'm lucky or what, but I've mostly hired salespeople throughout my career, and
Sure.
but a lot of companies are really struggling, man. Like, why do you think, like especially truck drive, right? You can't pass a
Yeah.
truck. You drive from here to the gas station on the corner, you're going to see 3 trucks that have now hiring signs on them. Why is
Sure.
that? Like, why are people struggling to hire the right people, to drive their trucks, to build their decks, to, whatever they're trying to do for their company?
Sure.
What are people struggling with?
Well, truck drivers have a particular problem, and I'm happy to get into that. But generally, the reason why companies struggle to hire employees is in that blue collar sector is because they don't know how to do it,
Okay.
and they, despite what they all say about their cultural environment and about how employees make us great and all of that, it's BS, and they don't actually treat the employees well, and they just don't respect the work that happens on the floor. What happens is executives get so far separated from what made them successful that they don't no longer respect the people that help them get everything done every day. And so one of the companies that I own is called Essential Staffing. And the premise behind Essential Staffing was helping companies hire the people that are essential to their business, not the executives, CEOs,
Right.
presidents like you and me. You can go without that guy in the president's office or the CEO's office for weeks or months at a time. That's
Yeah.
not that's not the most important person in the organization.
Right.
That guy's a schmo. But the guys that are actually shipping the boxes out, or the gal or guy who's creating the invoices or collecting the money, those are
Yeah.
the essential people. The people
Yeah.
doing the work every day that's really important. And what's unfortunately happened is so many of those people are disrespected or just not really considered by the mucky mucks who are making the dough, and they're taking advantage of the
Yeah.
the oppressed people.
Now, do you think that's just an ego thing, or is it like, hey, we've gotten so big that it's been so long since I was, the guy that was on the ground floor, and now I'm up here in the tower. I'm just so far removed that I don't even know what's going on down there.
I don't know what I don't know, and I can't
Right.
remember what I used to know. And so the reality is there's time and experience takes you away from the things that you did to be successful. And
Right.
now that you are successful, you forget what it's like to walk in those guys' shoes unless you kind of go back and do it, or you are like just hyper focused on being that servant leader that really gets how to help people achieve what they want to achieve, and you get what you want to achieve as a byproduct of helping them achieve what they want to achieve. Zig Ziglar said forever ago, you're probably too young to know who Zig Ziglar is, but
I've read a lot of his books actually.
have you? Okay,
He was one of the first sales guys I studied when I was 16. Yeah.
man, I drove around in the 90s, popping cassettes in and out of my Mazda MX-6, listening to all the Zig Ziglar stuff. But he said, if you help enough other people get what they want in life, you'll have everything that you need. And that's really
100%.
a lot of what I try to do. And I think that people forget that as they get away from the harder
Yeah.
spots in life. And one of the things is important is just to remind you where you've come from. And so,
Yeah.
I think that I was talking to someone earlier today just about the value of immigrant workers, like working with people who have made a conscious decision to leave the country where their whole life is. How good or bad that is doesn't really matter.
Right.
For safety and what you know, and
Yeah. What
to
you
move
know,
across the
what your
planet,
family has known forever.
right?
Right.
But to pick up and move across the planet
Yeah.
and
My
find
family
and
did that.
establish your family did that.
Yeah, I mean, from
Like,
England, like there was nothing bad going on in England, but like, yeah, my dad made a scary but decision to go from anything and everything he'd ever known, anything and everything my mom and generation upon generation had ever known to move to this country, right?
like
And that takes a
what a
certain
risk
type of
taker.
person. Yeah.
What a risk taker. How much grit did he have? Like, what kind
Yeah.
of a strong character person chooses to do that? And so, if you can
Yep.
find people that have made that choice and give them a skill or take skills that they're transferring, but help them with the language barriers that they have, or like help them be the overcomer that they want to be, they'll be
Yeah.
indebted to you forever and they'll be great employees.
Oh yeah.
That's just
Oh
one,
yeah.
that's just one thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. So like one thing that I've always tried to tell people is getting back to the basics, right? Like every coach, if something isn't working, something's, not quite right, every coach will tell you, get back to the basics, get back to the basics, get back to the basics. Now, other than getting back to the basics and these companies that have just gotten too big and the guys at the top have gotten too far removed from the guys at the bottom, what else can they do to really start to turn this around? Because as a business owner, if the culture isn't right because you're spending more time hiring and training than anything else, you're losing employees constantly. You can't keep people. You can't hire good people. You can't find people. When you're struggling with that, there's a lot of other problems going on. So, other than getting back to the basics, what are some other things businesses can do to fix that problem?
Well, it starts with culture. Like, who was it that said
Culture eats.
culture eats strategy for breakfast?
Yeah.
Okay, I got lots of great strategies. I got lots of great ideas, but culture is everything. And so in
Yep.
our organization and what we try to do for other companies, we have two kind of algorithms that, not algorithms, but mnemonic devices that we use. We have a WTF philosophy, okay, and you might know what WTF stands for. WTF stands for work hard, tell the truth, and finish the job. That's my WTF. I'm working on hashtag redeem the WTF.
I
And
love
so
that.
it doesn't need to be what it says today in society or in pop culture, but
Yeah.
work hard, tell the truth, finish the job. Shoot me a note and I'll get you a t-shirt. But WTF is really my life's work. I grew up on a farm as a kid, a
So did
hobby
I.
farm. My dad was a school teacher, but we had 20 head of cattle that we raised as a hobby farm, and I had a chicken coop, and we cut wood to heat the furnace all winter, and we had a maple syrup farm.
Right.
My first entrepreneurial experience was running our family maple syrup farm. Being from Canada, that's only just appropriate.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but but work hard was super important to me. I saw my dad do it every day. Go out and work a full day, come home and work some more. Um, and my grandmother said to my wife, my now wife, we've been married 33 years. When we got
Congrats.
engaged, my grandmother said to my wife, she said, Rhonda, why would you want to marry such a lazy, lazy boy? And I've been fighting my whole life to overcome that.
Right.
Grandma didn't mean it in the nicest way, and she didn't mean it in the worst way. But it's inspired me my whole life, and
Yeah.
so I thank her for saying stuff like
Oh,
that.
for sure.
Like most teenage kids, I slept till noon some days, and there were some Saturdays when she wanted me to be chucking hay bales instead of, snoring logs or, just sleeping in bed and being lazy watching TV. So that's inspired me to be a hard worker. And I really value hard work. I value
Yeah.
hard work over smart work. And
Yep.
I know that working smarter, not harder is popular. But I'm just telling you, in the blue collar fields, in the type of, even in the staffing industry where I work,
I mean, and
working,
honestly, let's call it what it is. Working smart and hard. You got to do both. You can't just work smart, because if you don't work hard, working smart does you no good at all, because you're not
right?
going to do enough. You're not going to take enough
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, I'm gonna work smart for 2 hours a day and get nothing
Yeah,
done.
you're
So
right.
so working hard is super valuable to me, and my grandmother instilled that in me with that, and my dad displayed that to me, and so I've just always seen the value of working hard. So
Yeah.
that was super important for me to give to my kids. Super important for me to create in the culture that we work in our business. Um, and then telling the truth is really important. Shane, you
The
said
most,
earlier
the
that you
most
were
important.
a salesperson, and you've hired lots of salespeople, and you have a sales organization. Our I grew up, got married at 20 years old.
Wow.
I couldn't drink yet, but I could get married. I don't know that that's smart, but that's a whole different subject matter. So I started in sales. I was a telemarketer. I sold replacement windows. I sold vacuums. I sold like all the stuff you don't want to sell. I didn't sell encyclopedias, but pretty much every other piece of crap you could sell, I sold.
Right.
And in those sales environments, there was lots of people that were encouraging me to lie.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
the
yeah.
the sales manager, the leadership in the organization is like, hey man, like whatever you got to do to close that sale, okay? Like you tell them that it does this, and like just get the sale, 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 get the sale. That's what it was in the 80s and 90s.
Dude,
Um,
that's what it was when I was going from sales job to sales job. As soon as they started telling me to lie, I'm on to the next job.
Good for you. I wasn't so smart. I had a young family. My boys were born when I was
Yeah,
24 years
totally get it.
old. I got twin boys. I started out really quick in life with a lot of responsibility. And so about 26 or 27, I had a crisis of conscience where I just like, there's only two types of people in the world. There's liars and there's
Yeah,
truth tellers.
yeah.
And only you know what you are. And I'll know what you are 6 months from today, but right now, only you know what you are. And so
Mhm.
I could take you to the spot, at the church where I was sitting when I had that crisis of conscience. And so I wrote down, I'm going to be a truth teller. And so when we started our business, it was super important to me that we be truth tellers. Because I worked for a competitor for a while as I was learning the business, and they would commonly say, "Oh, Bill can't make it to work. He's got a flat tire." Well, they knew Bill was in bed,
Right.
and it was just kind of like anything to keep the order going. And
Yeah.
I was committed to with my clients always telling them the truth. I say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Bill's in
See,
bed
I'm
this
I'm
morning."
the same. I'm the same way with my employees. Like when I first started my company, I had a partner who basically just had the money, but he had a lot of business experience, and so I would ask him advice at times. And he's like, dude, why do you tell your employees so much? Why do you tell them the truth about how much we make? I'm like, because they make a percentage of it. He's like, yeah, but why don't we just take some down a bit? I'm like, because that's not being
Wrong.
honest. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, as soon as you get caught in a lie, you lose all credibility. You
Yeah,
lose it all. Like, if
yeah,
nothing else, like, all you have is your word. As soon as anybody thinks your word doesn't mean anything, your value goes to zero.
that's right. That's right.
To zero.
Preach it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
It's
You're
crazy.
absolutely right. So tell the truth became really important to me. So that's W, that's T, and then finishing the job. Like I'm your typical ADD Gen X kid. I can't finish nothing. Okay, I am great at starting things. I am awful at finishing things. And so when we started the business, my wife and I are like, well, like What's going to be the success, what's going to be the measure of success in this business? Well, we're going to work hard to do it. We're going to tell the truth every time. But you know what, Dave? You got to figure out how to friggin' finish something. You got to actually complete the communication cycle so that there's great clarity around what's happening. You got to finish the job on every job. And so what we did is we wrote it on the wall. And then every time I hire somebody, I tell them this exact story. And it's like, I
I
need
love
you to
that.
be my finisher because I
Yeah.
can't do it. I don't have it in me. Okay, that's not the way I'm wired as a human. But lots of people have great closure skills. Lots of people are all about that finesse of finishing the task to just perfection. I love to hire me some people that have OCD. Like I just love those guys because they balance my ADD, and together we have
Right.
superpower. You know,
Yeah.
Wonder
Yep.
Twins activate. You probably don't remember that. That's way too old for you. But it's really about putting good people together and making a great team, and that's what WTF does for culture. Another
Yeah.
way we talk about it is the three I's, because WTF doesn't play in a corporate boardroom very well. Okay, when I'm selling to trucking companies or I'm selling to manufacturing settings, I drop the WTF on them, and they're like, "Oh man, that's great! I love that one."
Yeah. Yep.
But when I go into a corporate boardroom, which I do not much selling, and you can like just look at it, you know, I'm good at selling to plant managers, not to executives. But when I'm in those environments, we talk about the three I's. And the three
Okay.
I's are integrity, intentionality, and intensity. And so, like you said earlier, you are who you are, and once you lose your reputation, you're nothing. So integrity is like the basis. You have to have integrity to be successful in my world. Now, you can have financial success without integrity, but I
Right.
don't I don't know how long you'll have it,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much life success you'll have without integrity.
100%.
And then intensity is really important. You and I both have lots of fire. Obviously we get that just talking to each other. We get amped up.
Right.
And intensity is great, but intensity alone without intentionality is like a wildfire that's rolling across the hills of California. And that's no
Yep.
good at all.
Yep.
Um, so in so you take intensity and you add intentionality to it, and now you've got something's going to happen.
I love
Intentionality
that.
is the plan to execute with intensity and integrity, holding it all together. And now you've got great character as a human and great culture as a company. And so for me, I think of the three I's like a furnace. So intensity is the fire that gets the heat out. Um, Intentionality are the HVAC pipes that are going all around the house with the fans that pull the air through and get them to the right
Yeah.
place at the right time in the right amounts. And integrity is the firebox that holds it all together and makes it not blow up. Because blowing
Exactly.
up
It's
sucks.
very, I mean, both of these things are very similar. I heard the other day Jared Glant said A cubed. It was um attitude, action, and attitude, approach, and action, right? Like
Oh,
it's all very in line. Like I mean, when you hear some of the very successful and very good companies, especially when it comes to culture and hiring, they all have something very similar, like the three I's, the WTF, the three A's, the A cubed, whatever, and it's all ends up being the same, right? Like you got to have the action, you got to have the integrity, you got to have the discipline and the truth, and it's great. It's great stuff, man. It really is.
yeah. Patrick Lencioni, a famous business author, talks about hungry, humble, smart.
Right.
They got to have a hunger. They got to have a drive. They got to be humble. They got to be like not necessarily meek, but they got to be kind and understanding, and they got to know their role and their place and their time. And they got to be
Yep.
people smart. They got to be able to communicate and deal with conflict well and stuff like that. Um, the guy behind Gino Wickman, the guy behind the Entrepreneur's Operating System EOS.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of his book right now. Traction.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about gets it, wants it, has capacity. And
I've
I think
actually
that
got it on. I've got it on
you got
my
it right there on
calendar
your
right
bookshelf.
here.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're working on implementing traction in our business right now, and I'm the visionary, and my daughter is our implementer. I like to use the word executioner.
I
Um,
love it.
so and not everybody likes the connotation to executioner, but I think it's fantastic. It's like, man, you get
Kill it.
stuff done.
Kill it, Dave.
You're
You
just
kill
killing it. So,
it.
but yeah, I think that those types of pithy statements that have multiple components to it
Yeah.
build great culture. And you don't need to have my culture; you need to have your culture. And
Yeah.
you don't need to have Patrick's; you need to have yours. But you need
Yeah.
to know what's important to you, and you need to build it into your hiring process.
Well, you gotta know what it is, and everybody needs to know what it is, right? Like I've seen, like I've been in, at conferences or whatever, and you ask the business owner, well, what's your culture? Oh, we got a great culture. We have a good time, but they can't really tell you what it is,
Yeah,
right? And then you ask the employee, well, what's the culture? Yeah, we have a good culture. Like we get along. Like that's not culture.
and we got Triscuits in the break room, and like they give us cans of pop from time to time, and
Right, like
free
we do
free
a pizza
water.
party here and there. We get pizza party here and there. It's
That's
like,
not
come
culture.
on, it's not
That's not
culture.
culture. If it's
It's
not
not.
intentional, if it's not practiced, if it's
Yeah,
not part of your life and really part of the fabric of who you are.
yeah,
So that's one of the challenges. Like when I hear big corporate entities talking about culture, I always get like, how do they really get culture in big corporate settings where there's not a real owner in place, where it's the fabric of their being that they're pouring out over the people. When I think about the businesses with the most culture, I think about businesses where it's the life breath of the owner to be talking about these things
yeah,
and living these things out. Now, there's great companies out there like, Southwest had great culture for a long time, and
yeah.
lots of other good examples of it. But in a big corporate entity, it's a very difficult thing to pull off.
Right. You've gotta start it from. It's got to be from the start. You can't. It's very hard once you get a certain size. It's very tough to implement and create culture within your company when you're a certain size. Like you gotta start it from the very beginning. When
Well,
I
because
started my company, I was focused on the culture. I'm like, I know I need a ton of employees. I'm gonna end up having a ton of employees. I gotta focus on what is our culture gonna be? What are we gonna be about? And it was very important for me to, like you said, it's part of their life, right? Like it's not work, life. This is their life, this is their culture, this is their being, this is who they are, and they can implement the things that they learn at work or in life or whatever, and it's all part of them, right?
yeah,
They don't differentiate like this is work and this is family, right? Like, we do company trips as a team, and we talk,
yeah,
we have a whole team, we have a team meeting 3 times a week.
sure,
We're constantly talking and spitballing ideas, and hey, what do you need from me? Or, hey, here's what I need from you. And, what's going well? What isn't? What do you need more? We're constantly conversating. But, you've been doing this for 20 years. Has
yeah,
anything changed really in the last 20 years as far as what a company needs to be doing as far as culture and how to attract top talent and keep top talent?
sure. So, if you would allow me to say this, and I know that this is a little crazy, but I would say that everything has changed and nothing has changed.
Okay.
So, the nothing part is you have to value people.
Right. That's
You
always
have
been
to
the
you have to value people. If you're not like I really believe in servant leadership, and it's not the only leadership style. We actually have a course that we do on the different types of leadership style that if somebody sent me an email, I'd give them access to it. It's a cool little thing that we're doing. But I think that you have to value people, and so that's never changed. You have to, you know, and excuse me for the reference, but like Scripture would talk about, like the Bible would talk about, not being a respecter of persons, not preferring, the executive over the
right.
middle
Treat
manager over the
treat
street level
the
guy.
treat the janitor versus, yeah, yeah.
Everybody's equal.
Yeah.
Everybody's equal. And
Yeah.
so, but I don't know why
Well,
that's such a problem. Why is that
everybody's
such a
just
problem?
well,
But it
everybody is
is.
just as important, right? It's like a machine. If this part of the machine isn't running right, the whole thing doesn't run right.
That's
You know
right.
what I
That's
mean? I
right.
mean, it's anything in life, right? Everything has to do its job, and so every little piece. And people that don't see that, it blows my mind because it's just like, how do you not? I've always seen that, right? Like
Right.
people, without people, your company doesn't exist. Without the salespeople, the management, the marketing, the guy that cleans the toilets, so the salespeople can take a shit when they need to, whatever it is, right? Like everybody is just as important, and it gets the whole thing moving,
Right.
right? Like if
And
you're
it
on a
doesn't.
boat and the motor stops, you're not going anywhere,
Right. It doesn't mean that they all get paid the same. It doesn't mean that they
right?
all yield the
No,
same outcomes. There's ways for figuring that out,
but
but
they're
you
all
have to
just as
respect
important.
people. They're
Yeah.
all important. They're all humans, and they need to be treated well. One of my employees said to me recently on one of our podcasts, she said, people like to put people in boxes. And life's easier when I can put you in a box based on your hairdo or your outfit or, whatever. But life is easier when you can take someone and just kind of box them up and say, okay, I know what to expect from this. The problem is it's not ever true. And as
Right.
someone said to me this morning, when
Well,
you put people in
if you
boxes, if
yeah,
you
you're
put
just
people
making
in
it
boxes, you're
uncomfortable.
going to suffocate them. And so
Yeah.
that's no good at all. So
Right.
we need to tear down the walls to the boxes and
Yeah.
not try and compartmentalize people, but get to know them as human beings.
Yeah.
And where we can get to know them as human beings and respect them by walking in their shoes or just being kind enough to hear them and hear their story. Just like we
Yeah.
talked about that immigrant guy. When you get to know them, you can understand them better and you can help them more and they can help you more. So we need to be
100%.
careful that we not compartmentalize people or box them up or stereotype people, um, but just live with them and get to know people. And
Right.
that's really
I
the power of leadership.
I gotta ask you this question, and I would almost bet my life the answer is yes. Have you ever read a book by Jeb Blount?
No, never heard
People
that name
follow
before.
you.
No,
People
Jeff,
follow
what?
you.
People follow you.
Yeah, People Follow You by Jeb JebBlouNdt, I think. But People Follow You. It When I first became a sales manager, I don't know, how old am I now? Maybe 16, 17 years ago. The
You're not
owner of the
that old.
company, um, the owner of the company he was a bit of a wild guy, not somebody that I would want to be like, but his he respected everybody, and we
Mm,
followed him. We followed him when it came to work. Like the guy knew his stuff. The guy could sell. He was a beast. Personal life not so much, but so
yeah.
he gave me this book, People Follow You, and I thought I knew something about management before I read that book, and I realized when I read it, I knew absolutely nothing. And it has really made me one of the best hiring machines, and it's really made my my attribute of being a good recruiter. Without that book, I don't even know if I would have gotten there. But it's got some
I'm gonna
amazing.
download it today.
Yeah, it's got some amazing insights. A lot of the stuff that you're saying, about people and respect and really getting to know them and not putting them in compartments. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you're saying, really goes in line with some of the stuff that he said. That's why I figured maybe you'd read it.
Sure.
But
No, sure.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's a
That's cool.
great.
I love that. I think it's so important that we continue to learn from people and
Oh,
be
for sure.
lifelong learners. Like my mom was a grade 8 graduate from school. She didn't get past grade 8. She went to grade
Mhm.
9 her first day. Her brother came and knocked on the door, pulled her to class, and she went to work, and that was it for her.
Yeah.
And she did a lot of amazing things in her life. She taught me to be a lifelong learner. And one of the things that I'm, now in my 50s, I'm learning, so much is to listen to people that are younger than me. And I so highly value people in their 20s and 30s. People in their 40s, I don't have much time for. But no, I'm just joking. People in their 20s and 30s have so much perspective to give me, and I don't always
Different
agree with them.
perspective. Yeah.
I often don't agree with them, but I do really value their insights. And I'm trying to, one of the things about being a business owner is you're always kind of looking ahead and planning. And so when I turned 50, I had a bunch of advisors that were 60 who were soon going to be retiring. And so
Right.
I decided I wanted to change my advisor team to people in their 40s and 30s who could get me to the end of my run.
Yeah.
And so, like, you've got all these trusted relationships you've built over time, but at some point, I want to be in control of when those relationships change. I don't want
Yeah,
them
for
to be in
sure.
control of it. And so I really
Absolutely.
do value those younger people and what they can teach me and the additional perspective that they give me. And I'm not a super
Absolutely.
woke guy. That might not surprise you, but I do really value understanding their perspective and
Absolutely. I mean,
letting that
I feel
form
like
me.
you, yeah, I'm kind of the same way, but I feel like you've got to really listen to one to understand them, but you got to understand where they're coming from to be able to manage them, to be able to. I mean, you've especially if you're hiring people that think like them and talk like them and were educated like they were, right? Like the stuff they're teaching in school today, you would never in a million years, if my parents found out that they were talking about some of the stuff they're talking about in schools today, they'd have ripped
Yeah.
me out of that school faster than I don't know what. Right.
Right.
It's a different world, right? People are just different. And I love that you do that because that's what makes you a great leader and a great coach and great at hiring people and attracting talent, because you understand them, because you listen to them, right? Like a lot of the
Yeah.
times people just want to be heard.
Right. Yeah. There's a phrase my daughter uses, and I'm going to butcher it, so I apologize. Hannah, I do listen. I just don't always remember. It's a different thing. But it's like listen to understand and then understand before you speak. That for and this is something I think that I taught her by bad example, where I say stuff that's so outlandish that she and her coworkers of her age group can't hear the lesson I'm trying to teach them, which is good and valuable, because I
Right.
said something so stupid. And so she's been working in our business now she's been working in our business since she was a child, but like really involved for the last probably 5 or 6 years. And she's really taught me to control what I say so that I don't get them spinning about what I said
Right,
and
and they hear the
they
true
miss the
message.
lesson. They miss the lesson. So if I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a super important thing. Just be
Yeah.
careful of how you present yourself. And so like old dudes say stupid things. We like make inappropriate jokes and we
Right.
say stupid things. And when we
Right.
do that,
They
it's so
focus on that and
off-putting,
they miss the lesson. Yep.
right? And so how can
Yep.
they learn?
Yep.
And so that's just been a super important thing for me to take from her.
Absolutely. Great point. So, Dave, a lot of our guests, they'll have something special for our listeners and our viewers. What do you have for them today besides the amazing knowledge you've dropped on us about hiring, culture? I mean, those, if people don't do anything, they should at least be able to go out there and hire two, quality people and
Sure.
hopefully keep a lot more of their employees by getting that culture in check. So, I appreciate all the wisdom today.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. What I would encourage people to do is check out um, a website, x2z.org. That's our website, x2z.org. It's conversations between my
That the
daughter.
number two or the
No,
word two?
T-O.
Cool.
So
Got it. I'll make sure I'll put it in the
X-T-O.
description.
Yeah, xtoz.org. And that's a conversational spot between Hannah, my daughter, and myself, where she's dropping knowledge on me or I'm dropping knowledge on her, and we're kind of figuring out this generational thing that's going on in our workplaces. And
Oh.
so, in that, there's a spot for if you're looking to hire employees. We have a book called How to Hire Employees, really creative with the name.
Well, you gotta
Um,
be. There's so many damn books, dude. I mean, there is so many because nobody goes to a bookstore any day, right?
no,
So it's
no,
all on Amazon. I think I looked the other day. Amazon has I don't even know how many millions of different books.
right.
So you gotta name it what it is. Otherwise, nobody's
Yeah,
gonna find
yeah.
it.
So how to hire employees is for employers, and then if you've got people that are listening, they're looking to get a job. There's a how to get a job,
How to get a
and
job.
so check
Love
check that out and follow us, and check us out on YouTube. We've got a bunch of
it.
content
Definitely.
up there, and yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity to hang with you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having you on. Love to talk to you more. See how we can help each other in our businesses. And
Right.
I'll make sure to put all your links in the description along with xtoz.org so they can grab those books and get some of that Generation Z or whatever they're called
Yeah.
knowledge.
Well, it's what, there's just so much knowledge out there from these younger generation, and
Yeah.
so many guys like myself and a little bit older guys that are getting to the end of the game just don't understand how to engage
Well,
them and
they
how to
they
keep them.
they also have shut it off because there's so much in the media about this new generation, this young generation that um a lot of people have kind of stopped listening to the young generation from what I can see. And oh, they're too lazy, they're too dumb, they're too crazy with their pronouns and they're, you know what I mean? Like I hear this all the time.
Yeah,
So I would encourage anybody that doesn't understand that generation to really check out your website. I'm going to do the same.
cool.
I find myself in that battle. I think a lot of people do. So I'm definitely going to check that out. I'd love to understand them more. And I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, we need them. I mean, they're going to be the ones running this world in the next 20 years. So
Oh, in ten years they're going to
yeah,
dominate,
exactly,
and so
exactly.
the reality is that we're dependent on them for our future.
Yeah,
And interestingly, the Gen Z is much more motivated, much more loyal than the millennial generation. And
yeah,
so it's just a different thing. But one of the things that I'm kind of starting to figure out, and I'd be interested in your perspective on this, is I think that every 50-year-old hates the 20-year-olds because we don't have the stamina that we had at 20. We've got a lot of knowledge, but we don't have. So, like, I hate their music because it's bad. But when I was 20, the 50-year-olds hated my music, and that's
yeah,
just and really what it is it's adults who have kids in that group that are frustrated with their kids, and they
yeah.
allow their frustration with their
Their
kids to
kids to put
overflow
it
on the
on
whole
blast.
generation. And
Yep,
that goes
like
back
you
to our
said,
previous.
exactly, putting them in compartments. Yep.
Right? So you bundle everybody up into the compartment and you suffocate them by doing it. Whereas you got to
Yeah,
listen to them, build relationships, and that would be the one takeaway. Just listen to people and build relationships with people and meet them where
yep.
they're at.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fire, Dave. I appreciate you hopping on today. You have yourself a great night. I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Shane, thanks so much.